This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Happy Cheeseburger Day, and welcome to the game. Mitch Fortner and Troy Coverdale.
Cheeseburger.
Listen, I've been Homer Simpson with cheeseburgers lately. It's kind of become my favorite thing to eat, other than, of course, burritos is my top dog, and it will always be my top dog. But man, cheeseburgers just hit the spot, and we have so many great places here in town to go get one. What do you put on a burger, Troy?
I tend to keep it relatively tame, though if you slap a couple of strips of bacon on there, I'm very happy.
Yeah. Used to always be like, oh, an extra $1 for bacon? Can't afford it. Can't afford it. It's too much money. Can't do it. We'll just stick with the ketchup and mustard and pickles. And
then he became the highly paid sports director of this radio station, and that took care of that.
I asked for 3 strips. I don't care how much it is. 3 strips. Hook me up, buddy. Well, we're with you for 2 hours. Coming up in hour number 2, I want to talk some wide receivers and what that looks like going forward for K-State. We'll be joined by 2 guests here in the first hour. Voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, will join us at 4:40. Hey, the Kansas City Chiefs are 2-0. Boy, I got to ask him, how'd they get it done against the Bengals? I mean, statistically, there's some numbers out there. It's like, how do you get it done with this and this happening? I mean, I think one key is obviously some defense. Another key, maybe some calls going their way. But we'll talk with Mitch at 4:40 about the Chiefs' 2-0 start. Guys, it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. AEW Dynamite is tonight from Mohegan Sun Arena in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. We have the Learning Creed. Chris Jericho goes one-on-one with freshly squeezed Orange Cassidy in a trios match. The Young Bucks in Kazuchika Okada versus Kyle Fletcher, Konosuke Takeshita, and Will Ospreay in a 3-on-3.
Easy for you to say.
I slipped there a couple times. But that also means we're joined by one of our 3 very special guests now from K-State Online, DY. Derek Young joins us this week. He and the crew on this weekend, and for Saturday's game, will be on their way to Provo, Utah here very shortly for a road trip at BYU, which kicks off at 9:30. PowerCat Game Day, 5:30 in the evening, right here on News Radio KMAN, and also on our sister station, 101.5 K-Rock. Also, of course, online at PowerCatGameDay.com. Derek Young now joins us here on the game. DY, thanks for coming on once again. Just want to throw a hypothetical at you real quick just to open things up. So let's say your favorite team opens up 1-2. Quarterback is having a rough time throwing some interceptions, and some people are already kind of freaking out about that, not happy about the new offensive coordinator. And by the way, now they're going to play their home games in NFL stadiums. You don't have your tickets yet, right? So let's say the university comes out and says, all right, we're waiving all the fees for a limited time. Are you now jumping in? Is that enough to convince you to start buying some tickets?
No, because if they're not buying tickets, it's probably not because of that fee, right? I don't think that's like the harbinger as to why they haven't bought a ticket yet.
I mean, maybe we waive the parking fees and we'll talk. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not cheap to park at Arrowhead Stadium.
No, and what's that fee? $10? Like, I don't know. I haven't bought a ticket to a sporting event in a while. Maybe a baseball game this year, of course, but not a college football game. I just can't imagine it's something like ridiculous, but maybe I'm terribly off on that.
Oh, it's ridiculous. The last I knew, a Chiefs parking pass was $50.
Well, I meant the fee that their KU's waiving.
Oh,
I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah,
I would say less than 10. Maybe.
Yeah, like I don't think that $10 or less is why they're not buying a ticket. I'm guessing it has more to do with the product, and you taking $10 off their ticket is not changing that product.
No, not at all. Is it mainly for KU? Is it really just a Jalen Daniels issue right now?
I'll be honest. I listened to that. Who did they just lose to? UNLV, right? That was the most recent one. Yeah, I think I had to listen to both games actually. So I haven't went back and watched a ton. I have some, so I'm not as probably up to speed on it as others who have studied it thoroughly. But you look at the stats and you look at the clips that I have looked at, and he is not seeing the field the way that he was before this season in prior games. Now, some of those guys were wide open, and that certainly helps. So I think there's an offensive coordinator issue, quite frankly. I kind of said this before to you, too. It was like, I think folks were underestimating the drop-off to Andy Kotelnicki, to anyone that they would hire, not necessarily just Jeff Grimes, but of course, he's probably been worse than expected. But Andy Kotelnicki is one of the 5 best offensive coordinators in all of college football. You're not going to be able to duplicate that. What he was able to do is pretty mesmerizing, especially since he's having instant success at Penn State. And yes, I think it's a Jalen Daniels issue, but that could be, again, a product of result of not having Andy Kotelnicki instructing him anymore.
Either good or bad. Yeah, either good or bad when it comes to surprising Big 12 teams, either for good reasons or for bad reasons. Is it KU right now that's the biggest shocker of their rough start, losing 2 straight games now?
Yeah, I mean, their defense has not been bad, right?
Not too bad. Yeah.
So, like, they also have to pick up a football. Let's be honest. Like, as bad as KU has been, if they can pick up a football that's just like a stationary object or at least rolling around on their feet, they're 3-0. So, like, there's a little bit of that here as well, where they've caused it, but really bad turnover luck. So that's why I would take KU this week. As bad as they've been actually, you can defend KU enough to say, here's how they beat Illinois. Here's how they beat UNLV. On the flip side, it's like, West Virginia, I got nothing for you, man.
All right, so K-State Online, I believe it came out today. You guys vote each week on power rankings, and then you release it middle of the week. Who'd you have as your number 1 team in the Big 12 power rankings?
I still had Utah. Well, actually, I shouldn't say still. I think there's been some shuffling around there. I know people think Kansas State should be because they've been more impressive against better opponents because Arizona was being in the top 20 at the time that Kansas State beat them. 1, I am just not sure how good Arizona will turn out to be. So I'm a little bit in wait-and-see mode. And 2, and I know that some people have a dissenting opinion on it, but for the most part, I think Utah's the best team I've seen this year whenever Cam Rising's been available to them.
Speaking with Derek Young from K-State Online. All right, so looking at the Cats and their win this past Friday against 20th-ranked Arizona, 31-7, that final score. Let's kind of dig into the little bit of the drama of the game. The biggest worry, I guess, from K-State fans after that game was just the botch of time management at the end of the first half. Both Chris Kleiman and Avery Johnson took the blame of the clock running out with the offense running a play and never got a chance to score some points. I've always been in that kind of situation. You first just got to look at the head coach, especially when you had a timeout there after Avery took the sack. So are you the same, or you kind of look at Avery at the same time and say, well, he did kind of run out 20 seconds on one play?
No, I look at the coach there. He's a quarterback still making only his 3rd career start, fourth career start at that time. So I kind of look at it as the coach has to bail him out, especially when he has the timeouts to do so. Yeah, you can't just and also, if you don't call a timeout there and Avery doesn't run out the clock, you're still just in a 1 play and then kick a field goal situation. So even if you don't use the field goal there and timeout there and the time doesn't run off, you're playing for a field goal. Like, call a timeout there, you could still play for a touchdown. I just don't like the approach in general. He didn't call a timeout to eliminate the 10-second runoff. He did call a timeout when the clock was already stopped. So I think he kind of screwed up the timeout usage all over the place in that particular possession. And you want your quarterback to have the awareness to avoid those mistakes. But a true sophomore quarterback in his 4th career start, if you have the timeout there, you have to take it to help him out. You
pay attention to the O-line very well. Tough for me to do when I'm, announcing upstairs for the home games, but I go back and watch, and some guys have really stood out to me, especially in that game against Arizona. But with you watching live and really paying attention to the offensive line, especially with the rotation of John Pastore, back and forth with Easton Kilty, Sam Hecht is now the former walk-on is now a starting center. Andrew Lane gang in the action there as well. You have a 7-man rotation. Who's been standing out the most to you on the offensive line?
From a pass blocking perspective, I like what I see from Easton Kilty. I'd like to see him be a little bit more nasty and finish blocks in the run blocking category. But from a pass blocking standpoint, I really like him. Andrew Langang, I like what I've seen out of him. I don't know that anyone's been overly consistent yet, and you're still a work in progress. As a collective unit, they're getting better. Sam Hecht, maybe it's just relative to expectations, relative to the product, the last few years, but I've been really satisfied with what Kansas State's getting out of him at center.
One more thing on the offense, and that's the wide receivers. We're still waiting for the big breakout game for a lot of these receivers, kind of for Keegan Johnson, although he's had a couple of flashes and a couple of nice plays. Jace Brown had the 48-yard reception. It was a bad game on Friday as well for Dante Cephas. He had that drop on just a perfect ball thrown across his body was Avery Johnson. It was just delivered on a dime. He drops it. There was a miscommunication. Now, another wide receiver is a redshirt freshman, Trey Spivey, who has 5 catches for 41 yards. No, it's nothing mind-blowing. He doesn't have a touchdown. He did have one really nice play earlier in the year, a 22-yard play against UT Martin. But I also really like his blocking. And I think he's done a really good job, even though the ball isn't going in his direction. Are we at that point yet where we should be having the conversation, or even, now we see it on the field where, all right, maybe Trey Spivey, has he earned an opportunity to be, a first-string wide receiver, or at least get a lot more playing time and get more attention from the throws?
Judging by the snap counts in week 3, I think the coaches are at least entertaining that possibility, right? Dante Cephas at 21 snaps, Jane Jackson at 20 snaps, and Trey Spivey at 18. So they're all pretty neck and neck there. The prior game, Dante Cephas at 30, Jane Jackson at 20, and Trey Spivey at 6. So I think he's winning over the trust, but he's got to continue to do those things that you talked about. Not necessarily, hey, just catch the ball and go. It's more complicated than that. You have to win the trust of your coaches, win the belief of your teammates by doing those things that maybe don't show up on a stat sheet. He continues to do that. He'll continue to chew into those snap counts even further. But you can kind of start to draw conclusions and make delineations and observations just based on snap counts. That's why I try to pay attention to them, because sometimes there could be surprises after certain games. So that was a real departure from game 2 to game 3, was those receiver snaps. And if you want to take another look at another spot, is for the first time all season, Uso Seumalo also had more snaps than Damian Ilalio at nose guard.
Speaking with Derek Young from K-State Online, let's take a break. He'll join us for one more segment. We'll touch on the K-State defense in this matchup with BYU when we come back on the game. Back on the game, Mitch Fortner, Trey Coverdale. We're joined by Derek Young from K-State Online via the internet. Boy, I can't believe it. Earlier today.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
I mean, I feel like I should be used to it by now, but from K-State men's and women's basketball, we got emails from both of them today saying, hey, we're having press conferences in a week because we're starting practice. Boy, it's going to be overlap season before we know it.
Yeah, I was sitting here looking at the calendar today going, when the temperatures get down to the 70s for daytime highs next week, we are in late September, and it's about that time.
Do we have a future forecast? Well, it's probably too too early to ask because we're still 10 days out from the Oklahoma State game. We don't even know when kickoff is yet, but hoping the weather will be, because I mean, it's going to be, 90 on Saturday?
This Saturday?
Yeah.
85.
80, okay.
With some rain.
Back with Derek Young from K-State Online. DY, have you decided what the first question you're going to ask to Jerome Tang on Monday?
Maybe something about the identity of his team, what he thinks it'll be moving forward. But no, I haven't thought about too much of it. You put me on a spot, and that's the first thing that came to mind. So maybe that's it. I don't know.
Well, get ready because I want to put you on more of a spot because I'm going to ask you just some fun questions about the defense. But maybe I can answer the question for you there, DY. They're going to shoot the three, man. They're never going to have a lull at the 3-point line anymore. It's over. Depth, 3-point shooters, got a bunch of them. Okay, but for real now.
I like it.
The K-State defense, what a great bounce back it was. Bend but don't break, right? They give up the long touchdown drive, 14 plays, first drive of the game for Arizona. They don't score the rest of the game to the Arizona Wildcats. All right, so I want to know who you feel like on defense is the most improved player so far in 3 games.
From last year to now, or from game 1 to now?
Either one.
From last year now, it's definitely Austin Romaine.
Agreed.
Yeah, that one's probably by a wide margin. From game 1 to now, that's maybe Toby. Because I know game 1 was really, really good, but he's carved it out a little bit more to where he's doing more than what he just did in game 1. He's becoming that guy that they need him to be. So maybe that's the answer. I'm trying to come up with a better one because that one's a little surface material. I don't know. I think that might be it. Yeah, you did put me on a spot here. Jordan Riley was probably most improved from game 2 to game 3.
Yeah, because he had a rough game against Tua, even though he led the team in tackles, I think.
Yeah, he was real rough, and he and even VJ, even though he got the pick on the last play, and a little bit of Keenan Garber, those 3 were pretty rough in Tulane.
Okay, so let me ask you again. I'm putting you on the spot. I understand if you need a second. Who's the most underrated player right now on the defense? Who should get more of that praise?
Underrated defense. How about Jacob Parrish? Just because he's not racking up stats, but he's getting the job done, right? And he's not being a liability. He's playing really, really good, but you don't hear his name because he's not getting exposed, exploited, nothing like that. So Parrish, I would say Marcus Siegel, but I think everyone knows how good he is.
Well, I feel like, because I'm trying to go through my mind of the guys in the secondary, whose name am I calling the most? Who am I calling the least? I feel like I barely said Jordan Riley's name. I feel like I've barely said Keenan Garber's name.
But he had the pick last week, and I think
Right.
people see stats
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to be that guy that you're not getting your name called
Right.
as a secondary player, right? Isn't it better when you're not getting your name called? It means you're not throwing at you. It means you're not giving up plays.
Was allowing Teteroa McMillan 138 yards, no touchdowns. Maybe win is not the right word, but did it kind of feel like a win?
It was a quiet 138. So, yeah, I would – hey, you're going to take that. The fact that he basically got tackled as soon as he caught the ball every time, wasn't able to get a whole lot of yak, I think that was key. Some of the catches that he pulled off, man, it's like how? Like they literally played like 3 or 4 different types of coverage on him, and it didn't matter. They bracketed him. He got open. You put a safety over the top of him. He got open. You just playing tight man coverage. He got open. And now, really, I say he got open. Maybe he didn't. He still caught the ball. That guy's good. We saw Luther Burden last year. We saw that dude just now. I thought that dude was better than Luther Burden.
Really? That's very interesting. I don't know where Luther Burden is right now on numbers, but, I mean, I think a lot of people agree that Teteroa McMillan, like, who are you drafting? Like, who's higher on the draft board for this upcoming draft? Do you think it's going to be Burden or McMillan?
It's between those two. It's basically split on all those experts what they have. Just based on what I've seen, I would go McMillan. Now, I think they're both going to be studs, but boy,
Yeah.
McMillan, like they did everything they could, and he still caught the ball every time he was thrown to him, and never felt like that much of a danger against Luther Burden. It felt like as soon as he caught it, snap, he could take this to the house, but it didn't feel like he was going to catch the ball, even if it was tight coverage every time it was thrown at him. It just felt like there was nothing that anyone could do to keep Teterow and McMillan from catching the football if it was thrown in his vicinity, and I've never felt that way about any receiver that in a game that I've covered.
I guess the segue from there to this BYU game is about Chase Roberts, their BYU's best wide receiver who has over 200 yards receiving. And, I mean, I think BYU feels like, especially the media feels like, he's a future NFL draft pick. Do you want to just tell me what your gut tells you about this BYU game and how you think it might go down in Provo in a couple of days?
Yeah, I like Chase Roberts. I think he can really be a dude. The problem is you don't really have a good trigger man to get him the ball on a consistent rate. Like Teterow and McMillan didn't have to worry about things. Like Noah Fafita is going to get him the ball. Like Retzloff, I don't know that Chase Roberts has that same kind of confidence that Retzloff's going to be able to get him the ball no matter what. I mean, he's started 7 games at quarterback now. Retzloff has 4 last year, 3 this year. In those games, he's thrown 6 interceptions in those 7 games. He's also fumbled 9 times and lost 4 of them. So he is a turnover machine. I know you don't lose every fumble, but if you were to lose every fumble, he would have 15 turnovers in 7 games. Like, that's ridiculous. Chase Roberts is good, but he has less of a chance of getting the football and becoming a threat just because I think they're a little bit more deficient at quarterback. Now, we'll say the way he plays, it's very reckless. He's either going to make a big play or a terrible play. There's not a whole lot of in between. It's a lot of feast or famine when it comes to Retzloff. So here's the thing. BYU's defense, really good numbers. Up and down the board. They are good statistically. There is one flaw, but there is not any flaws except for one, which does happen to be stopping the QB run game when Kansas State is Avery Johnson. So it's not a really good flaw to have when you're playing K-State, but statistically they're really good. I do question a little bit of the validity or the veracity of it, right? Because they were terrible defensively and in most stats last year. And you look at who they have played and you start to question a little bit of those defensive numbers. Is it fool's gold? Some of that I tend to think is fool's gold. I don't think their defense is as good as the stats say just because of the competition they have faced. With all that being said, I do think that they're going to play out of their minds because of the environment of that game. They are an undefeated team that is probably has an overinflated sense of confidence. But even if you do, it still makes you play better than what you really are. And they're going to be playing in front of a raucous crowd that believes in that team as well in that game. That atmosphere is going to be insane. It would not shock me if this is their best game they play all season. So Kansas State's going to get the best version of BYU. I still think they hold them off, but I think this is a close game.
All right, one more quick one, DY. I was talking to Mitch Harper, who is an insider for BYU. He hosts some of their pregame show, and he told me that big donut, the cougar tail, that and a chocolate milk is $7. You going to get one of those?
They're doing a special cougar tail just for this game. It's a vanilla one that they don't always have.
Nah.
I've had a number of BYU people tell me if I want one, they'll buy it for me. So I can't say no to that.
It's a good deal. Well, we need Mason to at least do a review.
I'll make sure he does.
Yes.
I'll make sure he does.
He's got it. All right, DY, I'll let you go. Thanks for your time and safe travels to Provo.
Thanks for having me on.
Derek Young, K-State Online. Good conversation with old DY. Welcome him back here on the game. Let's take a timeout. When we come back, from one interview to another, one big name to another. He was just in Manhattan on Friday to open the locker room door with great finesse, perfect timing. The voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, is next. It's hilarious that Troy just played an REO Speedwagon song coming back from break. So I was literally just reading something about REO Speedwagon because Kevin Cronin is going to call it a career, I guess. Some differences in the band, and REO Speedwagon is going to no longer tour. And I kind of wanted to go see them. They had oh gosh, who Night Ranger, I think it was, opening for them this summer. I was like, man, what a fun show. I wouldn't mind seeing REO Speedwagon. I would love to see Night Ranger. I'm a big Night Ranger guy. But they're sounds like they're done. So
saw both, but apparently it's Bruce's health that's going to keep them from being able to kind of make an agreement at this point.
Oh, I thought
he wanted to continue, but they don't feel he's up to it.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Well, I think Kevin Cronin is the only original member still in the band.
I believe you're right.
Because you're talking about Bruce Hall, rather, he plays bass for REO Speedwagon, and he's the one I get. Yeah, he's 71. I don't know how old Kevin Cronin is, but I heard he still has it. He's 72. He still has his voice, I guess, kinda. I always worry about those high-pitched singers.
Valid.
Like Geddy Lee is the best example I can think of. Geddy Lee Rush from Rush of high-pitched singers that were so good in their prime, and it just, those are the voices that go, and you can easily tell the difference. Some of those deeper voices, they can survive a little bit longer. Geddy and Rush, they still toured for a while, even though Geddy really struggled because they weren't going to perform Limelight. That was not going to happen. That was not on the set list for Rush. But they would still do other major staples like Working Man, Tom Sawyer, blanking on other songs. But yes, I got to see him one time. Back, this would have been 11 years ago. Rest in peace, Neil Peart. We're still trying to get in touch with Mitch Holthus. He's always doing interviews before us, so maybe just running a little bit late with another interview. But
I'm having a chuckle over the fact the voicemail is full.
Oh. I wonder what kind of phone Mitch Holthus has. I don't know why I even brought that up. I was just thinking about it.
It just shows you how busy the man is, though.
I could see him having a flip phone, but I'm sure he's, yes,
the
very busy.
mailbox is full.
I think Kansas City's a little lucky to be 2-0, to be quite honest with you.
The fact that they coughed it up 3 times the way they did on Sunday, very lucky.
Coughed it up 3 times. They're pretty banged up on offense now. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out 6-7 games.
At least.
The bye week is in there as well, so keep that in consideration. But he's with the broken leg, he's supposed to be out 7-8 weeks.
There's part of me that says he's not coming back this season.
Really?
That's just.
Is it that bad? I hadn't heard anything.
No, that's just me giving a judgment call.
Well, I heard he had a very good, his surgery went very well. He had to have surgery.
Sure. There's part of me that hears broken leg, essentially, broken femur, and I don't see how he's going to pull that off.
Travis Kelce, 4 catches, 39 yards, no touchdowns in 2 games. Is he washed up?
Oh boy.
Is he washed up? I don't think he is. Travis Kelce, it's so funny when he has a stretch of just,
averageness?
Not even averageness, just kind of like this. This is not even close to average for Travis Kelce. I mean, his streak of 1,000-yard receiving seasons ended at 7, I think, last year.
I meant just average in what the rest of the league is.
Oh, I mean for tight ends. But having just 39 yards on 4 catches through 2 games, it's funny because Travis Kelce is always he is clearly frustrated, and he almost pouts a little bit, throws a little bit of a fit, but he always blames himself. It's nobody else's fault. And I respect that out of Travis Kelce. But, of course, the storyline now is, spending too much time going overseas and all these concerts and going around with Taylor Swift. I mean, he and Patrick Mahomes, they've been doing those kind of trips and doing all these different activities right before the season starts, even during the season, going to Texas for a playoff baseball game, and they're perfectly fine. So, off the field stuff is no issue, I'm sure. But, yeah, I mean, I'm very curious about what the Chiefs are now going to do at running back. I mean, does Carson Steele become the starting running back? Is it just going to be running back by committee? Kareem Hunt, he's on the practice squad. I understand that, but at what point does he become a factor in the running game?
They're expecting to bring him up here in a couple of games.
Well, they also picked up Keontae Ingram, and where is he on the depth chart? Plus, Clyde Edwards-Helaire he's injured. He's out. So he's not playing either. So, yeah, Kansas City is dealing with a few injuries on offense right now. We're now joined by the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. Kansas City 2-0 after wins over the Ravens and the Bengals. Mitch, we were just talking, you maybe heard just a little bit of it, the running back situation with Isaiah Pacheco now out a couple of months. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he's out for who knows how long. What do you feel like is going to be the rotation at running back moving forward for at least this first game against the Falcons?
Did you take college algebra at K-State?
I did not.
No, you did not. Okay.
Took it in high school.
Go back to high school algebra when you're solving quadratic equations and balancing. This is not going to be, oh my gosh, Carson Steele's going to have to carry the ball 25 times, or gosh, Samaje Perine, can he get up and running as quickly as possible? This is going to be the old quadratic equation, maybe more than that, 5 variables, because, you have Kareem Hunt now back. Keontae Ingram, who was with the team in preseason, has been elevated to the active roster. And then I wouldn't rule out Coach Reed's imagination. There's a whole bunch of stuff that he could come up with, and I think it's going to be all of that. It's going to have to be for a while here until somebody would establish themselves as a Pacheco replacement. But you have to be ready that you're not going to have that at all. So, which means it's going to have to be a melting pot of a whole bunch of things, players, and variety of plays and imagination to replicate or at least try to replace as best you can the lost yardage and production of Isaiah Pacheco.
Can we throw Wanye Morris back there and play a little fullback and get more of that big guy touchdown dance?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'd put Trey Smith, Creed Humphrey, I'd put them in the eye. I'd bring Caliendo in and then just put him in the eye and have Trey Smith be the fullback and just run leads and powers with Creed Humphrey running the ball.
Remember Manhattan High last year would run the old T formation, and a couple of the guys back there would be defensive linemen.
Don't think that's out of the question.
I love it. I love the creativeness.
You saw it last week. We had Leo Chenal in a 4-point stance. He was digging in like he was rooting like a warthog or something. He's at left halfback in a flip bone look, which is a inverted wishbone, and so he's at left half. The 4-point stance. It was hilarious. I was going off on it, but yeah, everything's in play. So don't think we won't bring in the old the guts and glue of the maize and blue and frontal T formation with 2 linemen back there.
Leo's last name, it's 100% pronounced Chenal.
Yeah, it's Chenal.
Okay.
It was Chanel for a while, then it's Chenal. So go with Chenal.
I feel
he
like
just grunts at you. I go, hey, Leo, what is it? He just grunts.
I feel like I hear it both ways on every single broadcast when I'm watching it on TV.
You do games. It's the way you cover yourself. Like, I'll do it this way, and this way, the other.
Nope. Just get both of them out there. At one point, you'll be right 50% of the time, hopefully.
I told you the 2 K-State ones that are funny was the kid Grossdidier, and they called him Grossdidier for like 4 years. And finally on senior day, he goes, it's Grossdidier. Like, okay, why didn't, or Eric Zabellin, and the PA guy kept calling him, that prior to your PA days, it was Eric Zabellin. On senior day, he finally said, it's Eric Zabellin. So you try to get this down before senior day. You're the PA guy, so.
Well, I used to call K-State soccer, Mitch, and on those teams when I was calling those games, there were like European players from Iceland, and they would just kind of give us an Americanized version of their name. And I was like, no, let's not do that. Let's get your real name down. It took 12 times to figure out all the vowels. But they're sometimes too nice about
consonants. You're talking about they're too nice. But you get Iceland and you get no vowels. It's like all consonants. R, J, C, L, C. You're like, well, there's no vowels in this. It doesn't matter. It's like Rushtoff. Well, I don't see any vowels, but that's just the way it is in Iceland.
Yeah, Mitch, you might want to say a prayer for Wyatt Thompson this weekend because he has the BYU roster to rattle off some names, and you may know there's 20 or 30, maybe even 40 names in that pronunciation guide.
Well, and Suamatia, of course, our BYU Cougar left tackle, I had to go to the BYU digital media guide to get because everybody was all over the map on it. I was like, I don't know. I'm going to go to the BYU media guide, and that's where I got it. Like, okay, Suamatia. I go, is it Suamatia? He goes, yeah, that's it, man. You got it. So there you go.
Mitch, what do you think about this start for Travis Kelce? He, on his podcast earlier today, says it's all on him. 4 catches, 39 yards, maybe catching a little bit of heat. He's about to turn 35.
Yeah, it's not. They're still trying to bracket him and take stuff away. These defensive, when you play a team like Cincinnati and Baltimore, they're as familiar with us as a division opponent, and I think that comes into play here. Atlanta is not, so this could be a week where Kels could get a few more targets, catches, and yards, but I wouldn't worry about it. There's other guys that can do some stuff, and I think they're trying to establish those guys. You got to try to get Xavier Worthy going. You can't let him go 2 weeks and get no action. You're trying to get Juju Smith-Schuster up to speed. We mentioned the running backs. Noah Gray's actually doing pretty good right now. I don't think Kels is losing any sleep over it, and nobody in the Chiefs' Kingdom's losing any sleep, at least inside the Ford. It's mostly just people that go, gosh, I took Kels in my fantasy league, and I'm getting ruined. Just relax. He'll pop out one of these with a 7 and 95 and 2 touches. It's coming. Maybe this week, maybe the next.
Before we get deep into the game on Sunday night against the Falcons, I want to ask you one question about the defense against the Bengals. Kansas City, I mean, that was a last-second effort from Harrison Butker with the long field goal to win it, thanks to pass interference on the Bengals that continued the drive. But on defense, I think this kind of flew under the radar. What'd you think about L'Jarius Sneed? He had to cover Jamar Chase, and Chase was hardly a factor against KC.
You mean Trent McDuffie?
Yes, Trent McDuffie, yeah.
Yeah.
Taking over for L'Jarius Sneed, I'm sorry.
Yeah, old habits die hard.
Yeah.
I'm with you, brother. It was like close to 20 targets. He had 1 catch for 4 yards. I mean, McDuffie just took him out, and then he was frustrated, and people, I don't know about Jamar Chase right now. He doesn't seem to, he's not helping that team at all and hasn't get ready for the season. That's part of their miserable starts. They've had the worst starts of the first 2 weeks over the past 6 years since 55 years. Like, it's woeful. But McDuffie's, whether it's off, playing on, it's exciting. The other thing is Shamari Connor. If people, after your show, so I don't want to drive your audience away, but if they go to our Chiefs YouTube channel or go to the Chiefs app, they will see Defending the Kingdom. And we have Shamari Connor in with Matt McMullen and myself, and we talk about a lot of stuff. But that guy is coming on. You mentioned L'Jarius Sneed. I almost thought you were thinking Shamari Connor, because he right now is playing very Sneed-like, in a Sneed-like role. Not just his scoop and score, which changed the game, but his blitz was outstanding at the end, which disallowed any more points by Cincinnati. And he doesn't give it away. He's playing like a veteran. He's super smart and tough and is perfect for this defense. Virginia Tech trained him well to play our defense, because that's what the Hokies did with him for the most part. So I'm fired up about this defense. Now, Bolton's got a big letter in coverage. Same with Tranquil. They'll get tested this week because, as you know, because you saw him light up K-State, Bijan Robinson can take a game over. I'm thinking of the game in Manhattan where he just goes, okay, it's my game, my ball, and I'm going to win. I think it was in Manhattan. I don't think it was in Austin, where he just dominates the game. And K-State couldn't do anything to stop him, really.
All right, Mitch, we have about 60 seconds left. Sunday Night Football against the Falcons this week here on K-Man. Before I let you go, how was it being back in Manhattan and getting open the locker room door before the Arizona game?
One of the thrills of my life. It was so awesome. That stadium was so electric. It was like GEHA Field at Arrowhead. So I said, I'm living my best life. In 8 days, I'm on the field at Arrowhead dropping the banner on national television, and then I'm opening the door for Coach Kleiman. It was so exciting for me and my wife and our grandkids. Our granddaughter just happened to be in the same game, the kickoff kid, So It was awesome. Yeah, no, it was cool. And then Coach Kleiman, the old Waterloo Columbus, giving me the fist pump. It was phenomenal. And you do such a good job on PA. It's great. You're part of it. And did I hear one time you go, it's fourth down? Did you have one of those?
I did, but Mitch, that was the smoothest transition I've made in my PA career because you did
So
notice,
smooth.
but it was. I didn't say I'm mean. I just went, it's third, fourth. Yes, you did catch that.
It's third, fourth down. I thought smooth. Nobody even knows.
Well, it's because I was a little distracted. I was watching. I had on my phone KU losing to UNLV, so I was a little hyper about that.
Well, stay focused, my friend. You know how it is. You get off track, and it's third down. Wait a minute, it's fourth down. It's fourth down. So,
all right, Mitch, appreciate it. We'll be listening on Sunday. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, you guys.
It's the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. We got to take a break. That's up for hour number 1. I want to talk wide receivers when we come back. You're listening to The Game on News Radio KMAN.